Hello, and welcome to another episode of Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Chris Roberts.
Today, we'll dive into in-game chat, scanning, prosthetic limbs, and some useful back-end tools. But first, we have news on the state of Object Container Streaming and Alpha 3.3.
Yes, so both Alpha 3.3 and Object Container Streaming have now spent some time in the hands of the Chatty. And the good news is OCS, Object Container Streaming, is performing much better than anticipated. And we're seeing frame rates, well, not all of them, but some up in the triple-digit range, which is pretty awesome. With these huge increases, we've redistributed developer bandwidth by shifting focus exclusively to our build that includes OCS. This means instead of releasing Alpha 3.3 without OCS to the live servers at CitizenCon, we've decided instead to open the PTU to all backers on October 10th with a build that includes OCS and all the performance gains that comes with it. This will allow us to get the content and improvements into your hands even faster than we would have done with the other plan. Hurston and Lawville will soon be added afterwards in an incremental 3.3 patch.
Very cool. So 3.1 and 3.2 were date-based releases. What happened with 3.3?
Object Container Streaming is a foundational technology for the game. It's one of the big remaining things that we've got to get working properly. Originally, it was sort of iffy whether it was going to make the date, so we said, well, we're going to shift it. At the same time, putting two builds out in the hands of our Chatty members and ultimately the rest of the community to test it. But when we went out there, a couple of things happened. One, the Chatty were really quite excited by the potential performance gains, and of course we were too, because it was nice to sort of see it validated properly in the real world. You know, you guys should focus on this. The other aspect of it is we're doing stuff at a huge amount of detail and fidelity, so we had to do a full refactor of the system, because for most games, if you play games, and streaming happens a lot in sort of single player games where they know which way you're going, so they sort of start to stream the level that's ahead of you in as you get towards it. But it's very linear, you know exactly where the player's going. With us, we don't know where the player, because you can go anywhere in the star system, and then on top of that, we need to stream a load in the object containers in the background while you're still playing the game. And so everything that does the loading of not just the textures, the models, but the data format, the objects, all the entities that are contained in these object containers has to happen in the background multi-threaded. So we had to do a huge pass over all the game code, because a lot of the game code in Lumberyard assumes you're just running on the main thread. We have to do a lot of initialization of all the entities, and all the loading and everything all has to be on background worker threads. It's a pretty monumental amount of engineering. We've been working on the foundations of this for a couple of years. And so this is easily as big, if not bigger, than the from 32-bit precision to 64-bit precision we did a few years ago.
Because it's multiplayer and I have freedom of choice, that it makes it more complex on the back end in the threading behind the scenes, because you don't know which way I'm going to go, and so it makes the engineering more complicated on the back end. Most single-player games, they know where you're going, and so that transition is much easier to program on the game code.
Yes, our whole development staff, we had a sort of come to Jesus meeting on Monday where it felt, people were having too much context switching going between this branch and this branch, which branch am I fixing stuff in.
Okay, so you've now you've now focused it into 3.3 with OCS.
Yeah, so we made a decision to try and focus all the resources onto OCS, because ultimately that's where we want to be anyway, no matter what. And we also feel like that will be better for 3.4.
Does this affect 3.4?
Well, we feel like this will be better for 3.4. I mean, we want to be date-driven on 3.4, so have it by the end of the year, and not wasting time on the non-OCS branch, which is essentially a dead branch, means that we'll be having resources focused onto 3.4 sooner, because they won't have to be still trying to fix up OCS, because we started on it late because we tried to get the non-OCS out first.
All right, looking to our community, our Spanish fans have been at it again.
Yes, they certainly have. The Skynet group just organized an impressive 50-person space battle.
They entered the whole affair by lining up all 50 participants and firing the Prospector's mining laser through all of them.
Ouch. Well, we're going to have to start putting safety warnings on those things, obviously. It's not how they're meant to be used.
No. Now on to development updates. The gameplay feature and UI teams have been working on ongoing improvements to the in-game chat system.
Recent updates include new channels and settings and an updated visor display.
VoIP continues to be tested as we get the feature ready for its upcoming debut.
It's the laughter. I'm laughing full of anger.
Yeah, internal testing is ramping up. We'll get a look at VoIP as well as FOIP at CitizenCon next week. Of course, with Alpha 3.3 currently in the PTU, we've already seen some of our Chatty testers trying out the tech and testing it themselves.
Meanwhile, devs continue to polish the improved scanning system.
Right now, the system is being fleshed out. Differentiating between things like mineable assets and ship identification is key with the expansion of scanning capabilities.
We've been working on a new tool that will help our artists present their work for internal review in the most efficient way possible. Let's go to Forrest Steffen for a walkthrough of the new backend tech.
I want to take you through a new tool that we have developed titled the Look Development Tool. So let me go ahead and just grab this lamp. Basically, with the click of a button, it hides everything that's inside of the environment, and then it just shows what we want it to show, which is a very simple light setup in a very simple room. Once we have the model into look dev mode, we have a full feature set. We have the ability to do turntables. We have the ability to change kind of the lighting condition. We also can kind of look at reflection passes. So with the click of a button, you're saving an hour of time. And this tool also ensures that the developers are all reviewing the different assets in the same environment. So it creates a sense of cohesiveness during the review process. So the last thing that we can look at, outside of Grimhex, maybe an artist wants to take a look at the Hornet in an isolated lighting condition. So I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into look dev mode. Somebody needs a turntable. The fact that I'm in look dev mode, I'm going to go ahead and skip the whole process of building a track view and a camera rig, etc. and so forth. And I'm going to go ahead and just toggle my capture, 60 frames per second, sets my path, hit OK, and now it's automatically capturing a turntable for me. It's not a feature that's for the game, it's a feature that's for the development of the game. It's an efficient means to get the asset approved faster. And that means the faster we can get approved, faster we can get into the build, the faster we can get it on your computers to play with these assets. And that's kind of the advantage of this tool.
So it seems like this tool will be great for developers, but what about for the game itself and for the players?
It's going to help the game be more balanced, which is really important because we have PBR, which is physically based sort of rendering. And so therefore the actual materials are made to respond to certain different kind of light levels. And so if you've got an artist that's built one to a different lighting setup than one that's built over here, and you put them together, they don't fit. So what this is going to enable us to do is ensure that we have less clashes in the end result. And so this prevents that, and it also creates tools that are better for review. So setting up the asset with lights and animation so you can see it takes a bit of time. So this will mean that developers can sort of iterate faster and provide more consistent assets.
I like it. Very cool. Moving to Grimhex Station, where Forrest parked his ship in that last bit, the elevator system has finally been fixed. Yay!
Yay!
This recent dev work should lead to a significant decline in elevator-based casualties in the area.
Yes, that'll be a good thing. So on the back end, we've improved the Flash tools our UI developers use to allow for on-the-fly changes without having to reload the game world in the editor.
Here's UI Creative Director Zane Bien with more.
So over the past couple of months, we've been working on developing some new authoring tools. What that is having a standard API in which gameplay programmers can easily expose variables that we can hook into with the UI. The other aspect that we've been working on that we term building blocks, and that's basically a first foray into the authoring tool that allows artists and designers to easily place UI elements into the game world. Currently, what we have to do right now is wireframing and prototyping in a separate program, then that gets translated into Photoshop, and then that then has to get translated into Flash, which finally gets translated into the game engine. So one of the eventual goals where we want to get to with this tool is to be able to shift our entire workflow into the game engine. So using the same tools to prototype, to mock things up, and to implement, using the same tool set as the actual implementation, then it would save us a massive amount of time. And we're talking about weeks down to days for any particular new UI that we need in the game.
So anyway, this is another example of some work that we're doing to increase our pace of iteration. Our UI team, as they're iterating on assets very quickly, without having to reload the whole game, and that's 5 minutes every time they want to do an iteration. Here it can happen instantly. So we're working pretty hard on tools to try and increase our development velocity, which is a good thing.
Yes, we like that. The Tech Art team has recently rigged mission giver Battaglia's prosthetic leg. Touches like this add a lot to characters, filling in their backstory visually. Like, how did she lose that leg? I'm sure there's probably a crazy story there, right?
Probably, you'd have to ask David Haddock. I don't know myself either. But I am looking forward to seeing her in Alpha 3.3, and that's it for this week. Don't forget to tune in to Reverse the Verse live tomorrow at noon Pacific on Twitch.
CitizenCon is next week, and if you won't be joining us in Austin on October 10th, make sure you tune into the live stream. All you need to do to join is have an RSI account.
Yes, and since we'll be at CitizenCon and all working to get Alpha 3.3 ready for prime time, Around the Verse is going to be taking a break next week.
Yes, but we will be back after CitizenCon. Thanks to all the subscribers and, of course, to all of our backers. And until then, we will see you
Around the Verse. Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.